It was a crisp morning when Stella Gray stepped out of the bustling subway station and onto the cobblestones leading to L'Etoile du Nord, an elite Michelin-starred restaurant famed for its culinary mastery. Arriving with nothing but a well-worn backpack slung over her shoulder, Stella appeared a stark contrast to the immaculate facade before her. Her simple, slightly creased clothes bore testimony to a hurried start, a quick workout at the break of dawn in an effort to offset the jet lag, and she didn't mind the slightly disheveled look her hair adopted, tied casually as it was. Inside, the restaurant gleamed under the morning light streaming through its grand windows. Every surface sparkled, even the air felt more refined as scents of fresh herbs and polished wood mingled. Employees in crisp uniforms and starched aprons prepared stations for another day under the scrutinizing eyes of discerning patrons. Upon entering, Stella felt the weight of assessing eyes. Muted whispers floated around her, staff passing quick judgments on the woman who dared to enter their esteemed domain looking so ordinary. Mr. Carlton, the restaurant manager, a man as sharp in his attire as in his tongue, noticed Stella instantly. Assuming she was the latest in a line of temporary hires, he approached with a dismissive wave and an arched brow. "You there," Mr. Carlton called out, his voice echoing with authority. "This isn't the subway lounge. We haven't got time for rests. Why don't you fetch some polished silverware and clean those windows again, Stella met his gaze, a mix of curiosity and mild amusement playing on her features, and without protest or correction, she simply nodded. "Right away," she replied evenly, leaving behind the amused glances of her unexpected audience. Stella turned on her heel with an air of tranquil acceptance, gliding past Mr. Carlton with neither defiance nor servitude. Her neutral response left a cloud of ambiguous impressions hanging in his wake, yet it offered just enough to avoid stirring further conflict, exactly her intention. As she moved through the carefully orchestrated hustle of the kitchen, chefs and sous chefs chopping, stirring, and shouting culinary terminology that filled the room like a well-rehearsed symphony, some paused, intrigued by the woman who had dared to placate Mr. Carlton so benignly. Stella offered a small nod to one of the line chefs who seemed caught somewhere between stifled laughter and empathy. Navigating the polished corridor, she headed straight for the HR office, her quiet footsteps rebounding softly off the light-colored walls adorned with accolades and five-star reviews. Every plaque bore witness to the restaurant's sterling reputation, now hers to uphold. In the cozy, elegantly understated office, Ms. Ramirez, the HR director, awaited her with a warm, welcoming smile. The room smelled faintly of jasmine tea and leather-bound ledgers. Stella exhaled at the comforting familiarity of an office setting, where first impressions could be discussed honestly without the burden of decorum. "Stella, so glad you're here," Ms. Ramirez greeted warmly, setting aside a neat stack of documents. "And right on time. I trust your journey was manageable?" "It was an adventure," Stella replied wryly, the edges of her mouth quirking up. Keeping things light was her style, even as she plowed through time zones and commuter chaos. After a brief catch-up, Ms. Ramirez leaned forward, her eyes sparking with excitement for Stella's arrival. "You're finally here to shake things up and spin your magic. I didn't announce your visit yet. I thought you'd prefer the chance to see everyone at face value." Stella chuckled. "You were right, the reception was, shall we say, affirming. It gave me a clear sense of the dynamics here." Meanwhile, back in the kitchen, Mr. Carlton had gathered his close-knit circle of senior staff. Confidence exuded from him as he recounted his encounter with the new girl, his version painting him the hero of keeping riffraff in line. "She strolls in, bold as brass," he narrated, with the kind of theatrical flair usually reserved for old sailors telling tales. "I set her straight, showed her how we maintain standards." Some staff exchanged knowing looks, partly amused at the predictability of Mr. Carlton's self-promotion tactics but mostly curious about Stella's real story. Back in the HR office, Ms. Ramirez was explaining the official introduction plan for Stella. "We'll host an all-hands meeting later today. It's a rare moment, the whole team together. But first, to give you a bit of context." She outlined the challenges Stella would face: a highly demanding clientele, a staff resistant to change, and Mr. Carlton's authoritative holdover operations. The restaurant needed her fresh perspective to innovate their menu offerings while preserving the core that made L'Etoile du Nord renowned. Stella processed this with an inner grit honed over years in booster zones like bustling eateries across Europe. This wasn't just another consultancy gig, it was a stage for transformation. Together, Stella and Ms. Ramirez detailed her ethos and action plan, encouraging creative collaboration amongst chefs, reigniting passion for authentic flavors, revitalizing dishes, and incorporating sustainable sourcing that aligned with modern cuisine movements. All while ensuring Michelin's standards of perfection didn't just persevere but evolved to exceed expectations. Returning to prepare for her public entree, Stella moved confidently through the bright, bustling ambience of prep areas and bakery corners, feeling the tentative balance as curious glances weighed the sight of her new attire, a signature chef jacket she now donned meticulously, emblazoned with her name, Stella Gray. The mood in the restaurant kitchen had transformed by the time she re-entered. Her attire gained instant regard, and the aura she previously held in plain clothing was now one of clear authority and insight. Whispers morphed into murmurs of realization as staff recognized that this wasn't just another newcomer. By the time she stepped into the administrative side of operations, heads were turning, the kitchen buzzing with anticipatory speculation. Her presence had set the scene for the afternoon's revelation. A structured announcement awaited. Stella took a moment, looking over her shoulder at the well-regimented clock where the hands approached the hour when her introduction would eclipse the day's casual choreography. She smiled, ready to meet their anticipation with clarity and a touch of the unexpected. Even as she worked silently to prepare herself for the meeting, Stella remained clever in her poise, steady in her resolve. The time for introductions approached, and with it, the narrative of her role would pivot from rumor to recognized reality. Every brisk minute now carried purpose, every move magnetized toward the impending shift where perception would crystallize into newfound respect, especially for those dismissive of her quiet entry, a lesson in understatement waiting to unfold. With the lunch rush beginning to simmer to its climax, tension punctuated the silence only busy hands could fill, sharpening the air with the irresistible scent of possibility mixed with anticipation. Stella stood poised on the precipice of her moment, ready to reconcile curious whispers with clear leadership and haunting doubts with undeniable trust in her capabilities and the future she envisioned for L'Etoile du Nord. The lunch service wound down with the methodical precision one would expect from a Michelin-starred establishment like L'Etoile du Nord. Chefs moved with the grace and agility of dancers, maneuvering around each other in a tightly orchestrated ballet. Meanwhile, Mr. Carlton continued to radiate his usual air of authority, blissfully unaware that the tide was about to turn. In the heart of the restaurant, nestled behind a spacious kitchen, the main dining area now hushed in its post-service lull. It was there the meeting would occur, a tradition of coming together to align strategies, resolve issues, or, in this special instance, introduce a new leader poised to guide them into a bold culinary chapter. At the appointed time, the staff assembled inside the large, elegant meeting room. The walls bore framed memories of culinary milestones, menu innovations through the years that the restaurant had achieved under previous leadership. Today's gathering was charged with a suspenseful undercurrent, the anticipation palpable, as rumors swirled about the significance of this particular meeting. Mr. Carlton strode into the room at the last moment, his entrance as grandiose as the occasion demanded in his own view. He carried himself with the self-assuredness of a man in command, his earlier retelling of putting the new girl in her place still buzzing him with self-satisfaction. Others, caught between admiration and mild trepidation for his confidence, fell into their customary places around the broad, polished table. As the final murmur died and the rustle of adjustment settled, Ms. Ramirez entered, flanked closely by a transformed Stella Gray. Now in her official chef whites, Stella radiated calm authority, a grounded presence that immediately commanded attention. The slight crease in her lips as she scanned the room hinted at a quiet self-assurance, fully aware that she was about to redraw the lines of perception. Ms. Ramirez spoke first, her tone welcoming but authoritative. "Thank you all for gathering. Today marks an important moment in Latoil's journey. We are privileged to introduce someone who brings not just a wealth of expertise and accolades, but a fresh vision to our endeavor." A subtle shift rippled through the room, as curiosity heightened, anticipatory glances exchanged. Mr. Carlton, initially basking in conversational glories of earlier, felt a twinge of disquiet shuffle through his nerves, an almost imperceptible shift, but enough to cause a fleeting concern. "And now," Ms. Ramirez continued, extending her arm like a conductor hyping an orchestra before its crescendo, "please meet the new lead at the helm of our kitchen, Chef Stella Gray." The room held its collective breath for a heartbeat, faces transitioning from puzzled to shocked recognition. A mixture of astonishment and dawning respect flickered across them, landing finally upon Mr. Carlton, whose earlier easy demeanor now morphed into a tableau of disbelief. Stella stepped forward, her gaze steadying the initial stirrings with assured composure. "Thank you, Ms. Ramirez," she began, her voice as clear and polished as the granite countertops she'd walked past earlier. "It's an honor to join L'Etoile du Nord, a place already rich with history and talent." Her words flowed with ease, each syllable reinforcing her position naturally rather than demanding it. "My vision," she continued, meeting each staff member's gaze with genuine engagement, "is to elevate what we do here, maintaining the excellence L'Etoile is known for while exploring new culinary frontiers and celebrating the creativity within our team." Mr. Carlton, trapped in the grip of unavoidable recognition, tried to maintain decorum. His mind raced to escape the embarrassing caricature he had fashioned for himself only hours before. Recognition, once stolen by assumptions, now reinstated Stella's rightful place, as his superior and as the guiding force steering their collective future. A silence charged with fundamental shifts hung like mist before Stella, waiting only for the gentle warmth of her influence to transform it fully. Recognizing the need to achieve that clarity, she said, "I believe in teamwork, a kitchen where ideas flourish and respect defines each interaction." As her formal introduction concluded, shifting silence settled into wary admiration and, ultimately, acceptance. She had swept aside the caricature of the incongruous newcomer and grafted instead a keen image of perceptive leadership, layering on assurances of creative space, sustainability, and collaboration. Glancing toward Mr. Carlton finally, Stella offered him a small nod, a measure extending a chance of professional decorum, a courteous opportunity to engage as an ally, should the choice suit him. The winding passage from realization to acknowledgement left him stunned. In the sympathetic shadow sidling in his pride's direction, he reluctantly reconciled himself with his own quick-to-judge rhetoric. Words he'd spoken so confidently earlier came back as mirrors did, reflecting only the truth as it stood raw, in obvious succession. Stella returned to meet the center of the room's canvas again. Rationality reclaimed balance as she invited discussion, aspirations, and ideas, her presence proof that the meeting marked not an end to narratives but a new beginning, much like the composite of a dish that entices with familiar aromas but surprises in flavor. From rumors to revelation, presumptions to new alliances, Stella anchored the shifting currents of L'Etoile du Nord, wielding authority marked by earned elegance rather than exertive force, an indelible presence representing more than mere leadership. It was the embodiment of understanding that substance favored subdued flourish over flashy artifice. With her dignity and achievements unfurling truth like a banner, Stella remained orchestrator and pilot, poised continually intrepid against imaginative horizons. As Stella stood at the heart of the room, the atmosphere transitioned from initial shock to an electrifying focus. Her presence at L'Etoile du Nord symbolized more than just a change in leadership. It represented a turning point, a redefinition of culinary excellence that everyone in the establishment was on the brink of experiencing. With the formalities complete, Ms. Ramirez took a moment to laud Stella's credentials, underscoring the veritable trove of accolades she brought with her. Chef Gray has led kitchens across the globe. In Paris, she took charge of a 3 Michelin-starred establishment, breathing new life into traditional French cuisine while not compromising on innovation. Her culinary vision then revolutionized a struggling bistro in Tokyo, where she seamlessly blended local flavors with international flair, earning her a feature in the world's 50 best restaurants. Every word reinforced Stella's gravitas, pulling the attention of the staff closer to her. Stella's leadership style and accomplishments were unfolding as more than a resume. Each achievement was a story, each lesson ingrained through experience and humility. Among the crowd, Mr. Carlton maintained his composure through the accolades, though his earlier swagger had noticeably deflated. He forced himself to listen, to register just what kind of force stood before him, a leader unlike any he'd encountered, one who understood the value in everyone's role, including his own. Stella thanked Ms. Ramirez and seamlessly transitioned into sharing some of her core values and vision for L'Etoile. Leadership based on respect and collaboration is central to my philosophy, she spoke, her tone even but charged with conviction. I believe in dressing practically, as you have seen, not just because of comfort but to understand the team dynamic directly. Unveiling truths can be as simple as observing and listening. The room absorbed her words quietly, the symbiotic undercurrents of respect and inspiration rippling through every corner. Her approach, emphasizing understated wisdom, overthrew traditional hierarchies by making accountability an inclusive culture. Speaking candidly, Stella addressed the question of her appearance that morning. I opted for a more straightforward look of the day because it's crucial to see first impressions as raw and genuine. I'd just flown in straight from an early morning workout to keep sharp, and this suited my initial reconnaissance perfectly. Her admission was both strategic and honest, a mark of true leadership that broke down barriers rather than building them up. It was a glimpse into a personalized approach to management that valued authenticity over pretense. In the back of the room, a younger sous chef whispered to a colleague, "She's already seen more in one day than most of us do in weeks." Stella, keenly aware of her audience, filled the space with possibilities, detailing programs she envisioned, workshops with chefs from different cultures, classes on sustainable practices, and competitions to innovate signature dishes. Innovation doesn't mean we forget our roots, she emphasized. It means we build upon them. The staff's initial apprehensions were gradually converting into something more tangible: hope, inspiration. People who had once scoffed at her meeting Mr. Carlton's wrath earlier now viewed her discerning judgment as foresight. She shed light on her previous experiences, mentioning a time when she had to craft a new, revolutionary menu for a historic restaurant on the brink of closure due to shifting food trends. By respecting the past while pushing forward with avant-garde techniques, she saved not just the establishment, but the legacy entwined with its community, preserving jobs and renewing pride in a storied neighborhood eatery. Her initiatives were more than just ideas. They were seeds of change that Stella had planted across the world, each harvest abundant and uniquely suited to its ecosystem, courtesy of her innovation and empathy. As Stella wrapped up her speech, a quiet but palpable transformation was settling amongst the staff. From Mr. Carlton's cautious but slowly softening posture to the sous chef's priming with geared enthusiasm, every individual in the room had been touched by the undercurrent of potential Stella had awoken. Together, Stella concluded, casting her gaze around to include each and every member of her new team, we will not only maintain the excellence that L'Etoile du Nord is known for, we will set a course for even greater aspirations. I look forward to tasting every dish, hearing every idea, and building together. She opened the floor to comments and ideas, fostering a vibrant dialogue where once only silent compliance reigned. The staff, initially hesitant, began to engage, some voicing long-held thoughts for improvement, others suggesting collaborations that had earlier seemed too bold or unlikely. The tenor of the room began to shift distinctly, from quiet assertion to outright eagerness as more of the staff joined in. Even Mr. Carlton, seeing the collective rally around an unmistakable commitment to unified growth, gradually leaned in, partaking as a conduit for feedback, bridging gaps that had once alienated corners of the kitchen. Stella silently observed him for a moment, allowing his progression to unfurl without undue attention or pressure. In doing so, she acknowledged the possibility of mutual respect replacing the friction of hierarchy with the ease of cooperative endeavor. As the open floor breathed life into long overlooked petitions, Stella's reinvigorating presence marked each exchange, a testament to the rejuvenating power of leadership driven by humility and vision. Here, in this session of confessions and renewals, punctuated by actionable insights, Latoile du Nord's path spanned outward with momentum. Though the meeting would eventually draw to a close, the waves of dialogue that Stella set in motion would continue to ripple through every section of the restaurant, from waitstaff to seasoned chefs, and to Mr. Carlton, whose grudging admiration began to seed new respect, subtly planting undertones of optimism amid renewed dedication. Stella's rich backstory had woven seamlessly into their fabric, turning a mere introduction into a day of transformation, an aspirational step into a future rich with possibility. The days following Stella's dynamic introduction were a whirlwind of activity. The restaurant pulsed with revitalized energy as staff eagerly embraced new roles and responsibilities, galvanized by Stella's proactive approach. She had given those previously intimidated by hierarchy the confidence to contribute openly. As each team member stepped up in their own right, there emerged a palpable synergy. Amidst the hustle and bustle, Mr. Carlton found himself standing at a crossroads. His previous convictions, flavored heavily by authority and tradition, now faced a tide of cultural and operational change. Stella's influence forced introspection, an essential ingredient he never expected to derive from what began as a simple employment correction. Ms. Ramirez had a private discussion with him shortly after the meeting. "Carlton," she began, a tone of gentle firmness in her voice, "we want to ensure everyone respects the values that make Stella the leader she is. I'd like you to participate in our leadership development program, focusing on team dynamics and respect." The words were clear, albeit daunting, a subtle yet firm reminder that growth was as much about introspection as it was execution. As he considered the implications, Mr. Carlton's ego prodded his discomfort. Yet beneath, there churned a slow, grudging understanding of necessity, a professional calibration he couldn't dismiss. In time, he participated actively, seeing empathetic leadership not as a diminishment but as an enhancement of his role. Meanwhile, Stella moved seamlessly through her new world at Latoile. Her precise, intuitive nature quickly earned her both confidence and respect. With each day, the kitchen transformed into a space where collaboration reigned supreme over solitary silos, and where innovation flowed like the steady cadence of a river. One afternoon, Stella decided to convene her first full kitchen trial, a rehearsal of sorts for a prospective upcoming seasonal menu. Ideas were submitted by chefs at every level, each ingredient carefully tasted and craftily configured into a proposed culinary showcase. In the days leading up to the event, the restaurant's atmosphere brimmed with creativity and enthusiasm. The spirit of co-creation emboldened staff members who might have previously held back their ideas. Even Mr. Carlton found himself swept in the momentum, providing logistical support and strategic input where his experience proved invaluable. On the morning of the trial, Stella walked into the kitchen dressed in a fresh, impeccably crisp chef coat that bore her name, reflecting the transformation she spearheaded. Her presence, by now, was as comforting as it was compelling, a permanent fixture that embodied visionary guidance. As the kitchen readied for the trial, Stella called for a quick briefing, her eyes scanning the anticipation in each chef poised at their station. "Remember," she began, her voice reassuring yet commanding, "today isn't about perfection. It's about trying, tasting, and refining. Creativity knows trial. It's through trying that we discover something extraordinary." Her words fueled an already buzzing team, imbuing even the most routine tasks with newfound significance. The meeting dispersed, and Stella made her rounds, observing with quiet approval the finesse and effort infused in every line drawn across dishes, her encouragement lending itself as positively as it did palpably. Out in the dining area, the room filled with select attendees, critics, loyal patrons, and partners, all invited to taste, review, and celebrate the reinvention in progress. Each set of cutlery shone under the refined ambience of chandeliers, casting expectant glimmers upon each table, echoing the restaurant's anticipation. As plates made their way from the kitchen under Stella's discerning eye, murmurs of approval and surprise began to fill the dining room. The fusion of traditional elements with innovative twists resonated soundly in the aromatic symphony played across every palate. Mr. Carlton found himself part of the audience, albeit tinged slightly with residual reservation. As he sampled the offerings, however, each course's nuanced complexity cast a new appreciation for the changes Stella was enacting. His response was one of genuine acknowledgement, as glimpses of what Latoile could be under Stella's vision realized themselves in flavorful clarity. By the end of the event, Stella's inaugural trial had surpassed expectations. More than a demonstration of culinary prowess, it celebrated diversity and collaboration. It had served not just as an affirmation of talent but as a blueprint for future innovation sustained in harmony. Amidst the post-event ambience, Stella encountered Mr. Carlton near the pass. Their eyes met, hers filled with polite recognition, his mingling with newfound respect. There was more than acknowledgement in their exchange, there was mutual understanding. Where previously judgments stood fast, now possibilities intertwined, extending an unspoken invitation to create holistic success together. "Stella," he finally spoke, a quiet tone that belied his earlier brashness. "This isn't what I expected, it's more. Thank you for believing in the potential we didn't see." Stella returned a gentle smile, her response straightforward yet layered with encouragement. "We're just getting started, Carlton. With everyone's ideas on the table, the possibilities are endless." Her words, a final departure in this retelling of their trajectories, struck with the warmth of truth. Each truth surfaced between the lines of their businesses, awaiting sculpting by challenge as much as camaraderie. As day turned to evening and the hum of the restaurant subsided to a soft lull, Stella walked leisurely through Latoile's welcoming enclosures. Her steps were as assured as ever, each marking the unmistakable confidence born from mutual trust and authentic leadership. She had taken her place not only as the head chef but as the pivotal force anchoring Latoile du Nord's ongoing evolution. Her journey had woven itself into the restaurant's fabric with assurance, her leadership underscored by quiet pride in what they had collectively achieved, and the adventures and accomplishments yet to come. In this serene moment of reflection and potential, Stella realized she felt truly at home. Surrounded by a dedicated team willing to strive for excellence together, she knew that they were on a path marked not by predefined goals but by the vibrant echo of shared dreams.